Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one rated sportsbook app out there. I am your host, Rudo, joined as always by the amazing AJ Hafley and a black screen there. Why not? It's free agency wrap-up day part 4 because the Avs just keep doing stuff, and we had to extend this out. In fact, the whole league keeps doing stuff now. This has been certainly an unusual free agency signing. Not unexpected given the situation, but we're into day 5, and there are still significant contracts getting signed, AJ.
Yeah, normally we talk about the first wave of free agency being done within 48 hours.
Yep.
You could argue the first wave of free agency still isn't done. There are still so many impact players out there that.
Yep.
We're not finished yet.
Day 4 had more money spent than day 2, so I think that pretty much sums it up.
Yeah.
Has slowed down a little bit today on day 5, at least as far as free agent signings are concerned. But the other side of this coin is there have been a ton of trades and the like happening as well. Obviously, we talked about the Avs acquiring Devon Toews yesterday, but the defensive market has started to fall into place, mainly centered around the Vegas Golden Knights. They, as expected, did manage to acquire Alex Pietrangelo. It was a bit stuck in limbo because they were facing going over the offseason cap with how much they were going to pay Alex Pietrangelo. They ended up paying him, I believe it was 8.8 across 7 years. Mm-hmm. So that is quite the commitment. And to fit him, they had to move out Nate Schmidt for a third-round pick in 2022 to Vancouver. This is an interesting trade. Let's start with this. Yes, there are benefits for both of these teams in this trade. Obviously, Vegas gets the cap space. Vancouver gets a quality defenseman that they need. But it also puts both of these franchises in an interesting spot because Vegas now fully committed to Pietrangelo for 7 years and still pressed up against the cap. And Vancouver, by acquiring Nate Schmidt for his full contract, which I believe is $5.85 million, are also now pressed up against the cap.
A lot of decisions have to be made.
Yep.
Schmidt's actually 5.95. So
it's 5 point. So basically 6.
Yeah, which is what Edler and Myers are making. So that's fun.
That is a defense.
Yeah. Like Alex Edler is still good, so it's like, sure.
Is he though? Is he $6 million good?
Yeah.
You think? I don't buy that story, but
I mean, at 34, you probably want, if you're going to pay $6 million for a defender, you probably want a guy that gives you a little more offense than 30 points.
Sure,
but
and not that far off from an EJ for the Avs, I would say, but
yeah,
similar kind of guy.
Yeah, he's the Avs would have straight cut someone to try to get Edler's aging curve out of EJ.
True.
But with Nate Schmidt, Nate Schmidt undoubtedly makes them better, especially because he can play on the right side.
Yep.
And I said it on Twitter yesterday, just drop that dude next to Quinn Hughes and let him rip.
Have fun.
Go, 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 go. That makes Vancouver better, but at what cost? Because they still have to sign Adam Gaudette and Jake Virtanen, so somebody's still going to have to go somewhere. There's still got to be some movement somewhere.
They have projected $2 million cap space, which might be enough for one of those guys, maybe.
I think Virtanen's probably going to get $3 million.
So that puts him out right off the bat.
Yeah, and I don't know about the health of a guy like Ferland.
Sure, there could be LTIR stuff that comes into play here.
Yeah, I had no idea until yesterday that they were paying Sven Baertschi that kind of money, given that he played in the AHL last season.
Yikes.
Yeah. They were fine. They didn't buy out the last year of Brandon Sutter's contract at 4.375. Like that guy gave him like 10 points last year. That guy sucks.
Yep.
It's really
their forward core is just riddled with these guys. Jay Beagle at $3 million for the next 2 years. Antoine Roussel at $3 million for the next 2 years.
Yeah, definitely.
And now they have to find a way to move one of them out, which we've seen. It is real hard to move cap right now. It can be done, but you're taking a hit. You're not gonna get a important asset back, basically.
Yeah.
So.
Vancouver, and this is an easy move for the Canucks. Like it's so hard to acquire guys of Nate Schmidt's caliber, for a third round pick. Like this is a once in a market offer.
Yep.
Same thing with like Ryan Murray going for 5th to New Jersey. Ryan Murray's in the last year of his deal and he's hurt all the time, so there are way different conversations with that. But this is a market that we'll never see again in the NHL, where quality defenders are going for pennies.
Yep.
And that's why yesterday's deal for Toews, 2 second-round picks.
Yep.
2 second-round picks for that guy.
When you talk about quality defensemen in this league, it usually starts with a first-round pick. And even having the conversation of moving him.
You can see how different the pricing of players has changed, because at the trade deadline, Edmonton gave up 2 second-round picks for Andreas Athanasiou.
Yep.
And nobody really blinked. Everybody was kind of like, hey, that's a good bet for the Oilers. They need help there. That's a smart gamble by them. For Colorado to turn around and do the same, you can tell how depressed that market is, that the Avs were able to get 2 seconds out of that.
They paid the same price for a top 4D in the middle of his prime.
Right. I do want to talk just a touch about Toews here for a minute, because yesterday, obviously, I was pretty excited, and
the initial reaction was yesterday.
It was all kind of happening.
Yeah.
I just wanted to circle back and make sure that the analysis is clear here, that like Devon Toews has not been. He's not like a hard, like high end top pairing defenseman.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, as excited as I was, and as much as I was like, he's really good. Like, he is maybe a low end top pairing guy and a high end middle pairing guy. But that's kind of the expectation that you should have.
To be honest, I don't even really see him as a top pairing guy, and that's perfectly fine.
I maybe see him starting as a top pairing guy this season, because you could put him next to Makar.
I mean, you can play him there, but if you're getting the most out of him, I think he's a 3 or a 4, right?
They kind of just recreated Sam Girard, is sort of what they did.
Okay. The way the Avs are set up, though, you're correct in that the long term, anyway, they're not asking him to be a top pairing guy.
Correct. Obviously you're still hoping that the guys you use top 5 picks on are those guys for you.
Yeah.
That becomes Bowen Byram and Cale Makar. That's your top pairing, and then Sam Girard and Devon Toews can be your second pairing.
Yep, and then you can round that out with Graves.
Right now, Graves and Timmins, and then at
Barron
some point
down the line. Yep. And filled in by whoever else. Gilbert, maybe Hellison pans out into something, whatever.
Justin Barron was just drafted in the first round. Like,
yeah,
by the 3rd year of the Graves deal, we should be having a serious Justin Barron NHL conversation.
Yep. If
only because Barron has the possibility of 1 year in the Q, 1 year in the AHL, and then maybe jump up into the NHL.
Yeah. 2 years in the AHL would be the full 3 years, and at that point, Graves' contract would be up.
Yep. And you sure hope he would have some NHL time by then.
Yeah, he should be. You have to think in that 3rd year he should be priority call up at least.
Yeah. I would say Toews has very little in common with Nicholas Hjalmarsson.
Yeah, they bake their bread very differently.
Yeah. They both played the defenseman position, and they're both left-handed.
We talked about that a little bit, Butters. It's definitely on the table now. A Johnson buyout. Look, if he wants to waive his contract, the Avs probably don't have to buy him out. But even then, it's going to be a consideration just because of the cap.
Yeah, I think it's a consideration. It's 48 hours ago. It still wasn't really much of a conversation. You could ask EJ to waive so you could protect Graves, but you didn't really feel that strongly about it. At this point, you feel strongly about it.
I wasn't expecting to go this way in our first segment, but we're here. So, I mean, let's kind of talk through this of before EJ waiving was at least a semi-luxury, right? For the Avs. It's now become a necessity.
Yeah.
You don't go out and give up 2 seconds and sign Toews to whatever he ends up getting signed to expose him in the expansion draft. You just don't do that.
Yeah.
And you're certainly not going to expose
Seattle's just going to take him.
And you're certainly not going to expose Makar or Girard either. So
right. Seattle would just take any one of those three guys. They wouldn't even look at the forwards.
Right.
They're sure as hell not having a hard conversation about Pavel Francouz. They're saying, thanks for the free defender.
Yeah, we just picked up a top 4 defender who's going to be locked up with at least a little bit of term.
Right. They don't even think twice about any of that.
So the situation has become more definitive, at least on the Avs side of that, in what they need from EJ being at least a waived NMC.
Yeah. And maybe next offseason where teams have had time to kind of plan and they've saved some money, maybe they can find a taker for him so that they don't have to buy him out and they just retain hey, we'll take the million, whatever. Yeah. We'll take the $2 million anyway that we would have gotten.
You just in get a buyout 2 years instead of 4 that way.
Exactly. And it's just the 2 seasons. And you're like, look, that's a totally fair deal. Because you honestly do expect, look, like Connor Timmins is NHL ready. Bowen Byram's NHL ready. That's true today. You fast forward another year and it's like, you've got to get these guys going.
Gears gotta start turning.
Yeah, you have to start challenging these guys. This year they need to challenge these guys. I know they're trying to win a Stanley Cup and all. It's not lost on me, but these are the guys who are going to get them there. The sooner they get these guys NHL experience, the sooner we stop talking about how young and inexperienced they are.
Well, it's still that balance, right? There's the want to win the cup immediately. There's always that want, but. Yeah. Long term, you're going to give yourself a better chance to win a cup if you set your team up to have opportunities across multiple years. And that requires exactly what you said, getting experience to these young guys that you expect to be the future of your team.
Right. You can't continue to spend so much time in fear of inexperience that you just stop developing guys. You stop promoting guys. They have to continue to promote. And what they're going through on defense right now sets them up for 3 years, the next 3 years of them having to manage internal promotions at the forward position.
Yep.
Because they have a ton. I mean, we're talking right now, they're still struggling to find space for Martin Kaut.
Yep.
They're still, they still have Shane Bowers. Shane Bowers was a first round pick. 4 years ago. You got to get this guy going here. Come on. And then you have the guys that come after that. What happens next with Sampo Ranta? What happens next with
Bocage, Mutala, whoever you want.
Kovalenko coming over from Russia. What's that guy's role? That guy's not going to come over and take 2 years in the AHL.
Yep.
So, he might take a month in the AHL just to be like, hey, I need to understand North America or whatever. But that guy's not leaving a super cushy spot in Russia where he's got his dad chilling with him. to come play for the Colorado Eagles. He's not going to do it.
Yep.
You can't. I mean, look, I'll say he probably won't do it. Maybe he does, and he's a weirdo. But like, they can't plan for that. They've got to figure out a way. Hey, this guy, even if the guy is the 13th forward and he's just practicing every day, somebody will get hurt.
Yeah, let alone the 13th forward gets him NHL money. You really think kids are going to come over from Russia where they're making decent money in the KHL if you're someone like Kovalenko to take $70K in the AHL?
Right.
Not buying that.
No, but you'll come over and you'll take the ELC money. You'll make $900K right. for 2 years, and then you get a $2 million contract or whatever, and you're smoking what you made in Russia.
If you're 13th forward making that bank, you're fine.
Yeah, and that's just to get him on the NHL roster. Like whatever happens from there is up to him. But I mean, this all just goes to say, like, they've got to start, and this is why I keep saying I think Bowen Byram's going to be in play. I think they know Bowen Byram can play in the NHL right now, and they're like, look, the sooner we get the rookie bumps out of the way, the sooner we get the elite in his prime guy that we drafted 4th overall, and we're not sitting here talking about what's next for him. We're looking at, okay, now we have a defense. We have a solidified top 4, Bowen Byram, Cale Makar, Sam Girard, and now Devontae.
That it's not only that, it's that they got other guys to develop this guy so you can get on to the next one.
Right. I mean, then you still have Connor Timmins. You've got to figure that guy out, okay? And then immediately after this, we're talking next fall. We're talking about Justin Barron potentially being in the AHL with the Eagles, along with Danila Zhiravalov.
Yep.
Depending on what they want to do.
Yep.
Because I know he signed that contract extension and then broke his arm.
Depending on the year that Hellison has too, he might be a conversation as well.
Seriously, like Drew Hellison also part of the conversation. It's even if Drew Hellison is 2 years away, even if Justin Barron is 2 years away, like you have to know that this is coming. These ELCs are coming, and that you have development plans, and that you have this in mind. That you're not
turns off. Yeah.
You're not so focused on like, oh, well, we'll just see what happens and then make up our mind from there. You have to see what happens first to decide what's best to do next. But you should have those paths mapped out depending on how they go. Justin Barron has a great year in Halifax. Boom, he goes into the AHL.
Yep.
And he follows the Connor Timmins path. If he doesn't have a great year in the queue, then he needs to go back and do it again.
But
he goes back and does it again. That's fine. It just takes a year longer.
You make that decision based on the result, and you have to leave both paths open. Is just the reality there. We do need to take our first period break. Shout out to Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR, with over 8 different types on tap down at the DNVR bar and dozens at the farmhouse in Littleton. Head on down there. You can even get curbside pickup, or you can dine in. They do have limited seating now. If you want to do pickup, you can get $5 off when you use code DNVR when you call 303-803-1380. Pickup from noon to 8 p.m. And Green Mountain Dental Group, the best dentist in the Denver metro area, down in Lakewood, just 15 minutes from downtown. Super easy to get to. Big Colorado sports fans as well. When you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam with them, you'll get a free Sonicare toothbrush. Be sure to tweet at us when you go so we can all hit it up. They're a great place. They'll send you reminders, everything you need to make sure your teeth are taken care of, and get that free electric toothbrush. It just makes life that much easier. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Yes, Z is healthy. That is true. He's played a couple of games. He's back. But we'll see. We'll see how the KHL goes. Kovalenko's been playing as well. I did want to bring us back closer to the topic of the day, though, which is still mostly free agency. 5280 Avs asked, any word on the contract negotiations for Toews? There's not really been any word on that. The guy, pretty sure, is still on his honeymoon because he got married just a couple days ago.
Yeah.
So we'll see on that. But AJ, I'm curious, what are your expectations for a contract roughly?
People have been asking me this, and I've just been kind of pegging it at 4 by 4.5 million per year. Maybe 5 by right around 5, like somewhere in that range.
Sure. So $4.5-5 million, 4 or 5 years, a commitment.
Yeah.
And
not a 2-year deal.
Right, right. I bring up this number because I want to springboard off of it in a comparison to Nate Schmidt, because this has been the big topic around the Avs Twitterverse, at least lately. 2 trades made on the same day where the Avs go out and get Toews to solidify their defense, and then Vancouver gets Schmidt out of Vegas for a 3rd-round pick. Looking at the value of these trades, look, you can't say who wins a trade until you see performance at the end of the day. But right now, which trade are you feeling better about?
Both.
You think they're both good for their respect?
Yeah, I think both teams are thrilled.
Yep.
Vancouver gets a defender with a pulse, which is something that they needed, but they also get a really good one. Like Nate Schmidt's really good. The downside of Nate Schmidt is simply that he's 29 years old. He's signed for 5 more years at $5.95 million.
Yep.
Like,
you're committed nearly $6 million till this guy's 34.
Yeah. Like that's a big commitment, and you're going into the same conversation about aging curves as Vegas is with Alex Pietrangelo.
Yep.
You're paying a lot of money to a guy to age gracefully. If he ages like Alex Edler, great.
Schmidt has a modified NTC. It's a 10-team no trade list. So there's 10 teams he can decline.
He didn't have tons of control over the process.
Yep.
Besides, we see guys waive those all the time because they don't. Because it's simply a matter of, oh, you don't want me here? Well, I don't want to be here.
Right. Get me out.
So, anyway, with Schmidt and Vegas, this was interesting for Vegas because they traded him to a division rival.
Yeah, in division is maybe the most interesting.
Yeah.
Part.
So like getting Pietrangelo is a home run for them, no doubt, right?
Yep.
But then you lose Schmidt and you get nothing in return. And that you wanted to put those guys together. You wanted a top 4 of Shea Theodore, Alex Pietrangelo, Braden McNabb, Nate Schmidt.
Yep.
That was the goal. That was like
to build the juggernaut. Yeah. And
now that's gone.
The upgrade of Alex Pietrangelo on an unknown is huge. The upgrade on Alex Pietrangelo on Nate Schmidt is very large. Don't get me wrong, but it's significantly less.
It's significant, but yeah, it's to your point to say in the upgrade over the unknown, it's 0 to 100.
Right.
You get a top flight defender, which is impossible to do in the NHL. But the upgrade, the difference between
when
Schmidt
Nate Schmidt
and
is giving you 80 already, yeah,
it's like 80 to 100. I was gonna say 75. You say 80. Perfect. Yeah. We're right in the same neighborhood.
Yep.
It's 80 to 100. Like
so it matters, but it's not.
You're better. You're definitely better, but the difference between Schmidt on a second pairing versus Zach Whitecloud, that would have been 30 to 80.
Pretty big jump, yeah.
And instead, now they're looking for that guy. Maybe Zach Whitecloud is on that second pairing. Maybe Nick Holden, whatever they're going to do. That's now in flux.
Yep.
So you only get a little bit better.
You end up in a world where the Avs were a few years ago, where they're trying to get by with Patrick Nemeth on their second pair. They're trying to get by with guys who are limited.
Right. Where the Avs were in the playoffs last year, where Zadorov, Graves, and Cole are all third pairing guys, and they're all playing 20 minutes for you.
Yep.
And for Vancouver, this is a clear win. This is great. This is exactly what they needed. But again, they are right back into
cap crunch city. Yep.
A cap problem, and this is right after they watched Tyler Toffoli take a great deal. A 4-year deal, less than $5 million per, and part of that is because they did not get rid of Brandon Sutter. They did not find a taker for Sven Baertschi. They did, they didn't do these things that they could have done to keep Toffoli around, and instead ended up giving up that second-round pick in Tyler Madden, who's turned into a really good forward prospect.
Yep.
And Tyler Madden would have been NHL, would have been potentially breaking into the Canucks on an ELC this year.
It just goes to show building a hockey team is a consequence of so many decisions.
Yeah.
There are so many factors that play into these things where you end up in these situations where I don't want to say one decision makes or breaks your team, because it doesn't. It's a significant amount, but when the wrong decisions start to add up, it becomes hard to dig yourself out and keep making your team better.
Yeah.
You have to take hits somewhere. And that's something that the Avs have avoided very, very effectively over the past couple of years.
Yeah. Where Vancouver has kind of struggled here has been more about self-inflicted salary cap problems. They put them and not a, hey, we have to pay elite players salary cap problems, but we overpaid for Jay Beagle and Roussel and Baertschi and Sutter and all these guys that it's causing them an issue now. And this is a year before they have to pay both Pettersson and Hughes. Then they have to pay those guys, and they're in a different kind of problem.
Yep.
So it's just been I said this on Twitter earlier today, but I think that Vancouver is kind of where Colorado was 2 years ago, where they've got all the young high-end pieces, but they're trying to find the right guys, the right combination behind them. Their big difference is that they're in cap hell.
Yeah.
And Colorado
20 million of cap space when they were in that spot.
Yeah. And the Avs could afford to trade a 4th-round pick for Colin Wilson. They could afford to add at every deadline freely and not have to worry about anything.
They were open to getting better via alternate means, taking on a Brooks Orpik buyout to go get Philip Grubauer.
Right. To avoid paying 2 second-round picks for Philip Grubauer, they agreed to buy out Brooks Orpik.
Yep.
Saves them an asset. Now, what did they do with that asset?
They go on and move it for Devon Toews.
It's every to what you're saying is that every decision has a trickle down effect.
Yep.
Everything that you don't do, every trade you don't make means that you have an asset for something later.
Yep. It's a balancing act, to say the least, and no one can see the future, but you have to be adaptable. You have to be ready to know that this could be a piece that could come important for you later. And the Avs and Joe Sakic, I don't think anyone's been better than him at doing this. We did get a little bit off topic again, but I did want to go directly into the comparison between Nate Schmidt and Devon Toews. I lean towards Schmidt being a better player, at least right now. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. It's fair to say.
Okay. If we agree on that, then we can work from that point. The Avs straight up couldn't have afforded Nate Schmidt at $6 million. Just wasn't going to fit on their roster.
They would have had to have sent money back.
Right.
They would have had to dump money on somebody else, which we're seeing. Teams are having a hard time dumping money because they're having to give up good players for nothing in order to do it. This is not we're going to dump, if they could, if Vancouver could have dumped Sven Baertschi or Brandon Sutter on somebody, they would have done that and signed Tyler Toffoli. They would have done that. But teams aren't taking on money for guys who aren't going to help them. They're just not doing it, which is why the whole maybe Colorado dumps Ian Cole. You know, I even thought about it today with the news that Oscar Klefbom might not be healthy for next season.
Right. He may miss the entire season. Yeah.
His salary is almost the same exact one as Ian Cole's. And for a 1-year thing, that makes perfect sense, right? So that's an obvious fit, but the Avs wouldn't get anything back.
Right.
Which wouldn't be the point.
The Avs are looking to get value out of their trades. They don't need to dump cap necessarily. At least not this season. So they went out and they got a guy that can be part of their organization in Toews longer term. We'll say longer term. But do you think they could have done better? I guess is the question I should be asking on the Avs side, because a lot of people seem to be giving Vancouver the nod here in making the better trade.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's fine. Like, you're also assuming that Vegas would have traded Nate Schmidt to Colorado for a third.
Yeah.
Would Nate, if I'm Vegas, I'm more willing to give Nate Schmidt to a Vancouver team that doesn't really scare me that much than I am to a Colorado team that I should have played in the conference finals this year.
And help complete that monster of a team.
And do you want to, that's it. I'm not convinced they would have done that. Yeah. But they did trade him to a division rival, so it at least opens it up to a conversation. Like the Islanders trading Devon Toews to the Avs is like, well, we're not going to see that guy. That's never going to haunt us. In a world where they play each other in the Stanley Cup Finals, sure. but
beyond that, yeah.
Right. Like, that's not going to, which was one of the reasons the Blackhawks Saad deal was so odd, because you could have moved
stays in division. Yeah.
You could have moved him to a lot of places. And instead, you help a division rival really round out their forward core.
Yep. It's certainly interesting, but hey, Joe's pulling guys out of places and putting them on the Avs. So, real quick, Grant says Devontae's hearing for arbitration is on October 31st. I would be shocked if that hearing happens. Fully expect the Avs to get a deal done before then with him, given that arbitration is 2-year deal at most. So,
right, They've got several weeks now to work out, what do they want to do about Jost? What does Jost want to do?
Yep.
If Jost just signs his qualifying offer, that helps the Avs a metric ton.
They got plenty of cap space then.
Yeah, because that's if his qualifying offer had to be like $1 million.
Probably not even, but
yeah. I mean, at most $1 million.
Yeah.
So that's, if he decides to do that, great. If they give him the 2-year deal, that's also fine. But it's just knowing the number and how much space they actually have to work, because they are $6 million right now, $6.7 million with Toews and Jost
still to sign.
Yeah, and then even then, that's it. That gives you a 12-6-2 lineup. You have
to add at least one guy on the bench, probably two.
Yeah, you're probably. I mean, if the one guy is Jacob McDonald because he plays both positions, that's the best. That's like the biggest value contract in the league, right? But realistically, you're probably adding, and I'm just going to continue to push this. Byram on the back end, and either a Logan O'Connor or a Martin Kaut. Maybe both to the forward core.
Which brings us to the next question in the chat here, but we do need to take our second period break here. First, with DraftKings Sportsbook, the number 1 rated sportsbook app out there. They're always slinging amazing odds boost deals every single week. Week 5 of football is sort of over. There's actually a game getting played today because of all the weirdness going down there, but there's no better place to get into all the action with DraftKings Sportsbook. So to add to the excitement of week 6, DraftKings Sportsbook is bringing back their can't miss offer. If you haven't tried DraftKings Sportsbook yet, head to the App App Store now because you don't want to miss it. All new users get a chance when they sign up of a bonus of up to $1,000. And on top of that great sign-up offer, you can get odds boosts that some of them are straight up just free money. If you're a basketball fan, if you want to go crazy and bet on one of those foreign markets that are actually playing basketball right now, you can get a 200% profit boost right now. So if you think you have a market inefficiency in one of those Euro leagues, jump on it, make yourself some money. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DNVR when you sign up to get up to $1,000. Again, the DNVR code on a new account for a limited time only. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires 25x playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by that DraftKings. So Christopher asks about the roster crunch that we're kind of getting into the conversation with Jost here. There probably is a world where the Avs can make the cap work as is, but he's asking if it is time to look at trading a forward or something just based on the Avs roster crunch. And I talked about this yesterday a little bit. I think it makes a lot of sense for them to be looking to move a forward.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you could, I think that there are two prime candidates with a third and a fourth guy that are kind of, they also make sense, but they're less, you really don't want to do it. And I think it's a combination of Donskoy and Compher. And just because both guys, I think, are pretty replaceable. Especially if you were to move Compher purely for futures, just a prospect or picks, get one of those second round picks back, get 2 third-round picks, whatever the hell it ends up being, right? Like I'm just throwing Jello at the wall on a return. Okay, great. You just cleared out $3.5 million. And then you can go into free agency and sign.
Right.
As we're seeing, Matt Nieto got $700K. Nemestikov got $2 million. Yeah. Like you can go into free agency and sign an Eric Howla for like 1.5 of that. That's
Donskoy, same thing. He's making 3.9.
Yeah.
Both of these guys have 3 years left on their deal. If the Avs can move out that cap, it not only makes plenty of room for this season, but it takes a little bit of the pressure off in the coming years as well. Given that Landeskog's got to sign, Makar's got to sign, eventually McKinnon's got to sign.
Well, now they've got to sign Toews. Now they've got to sign Saad.
That's like 2 more guys that they got to look to try and figure out what they're doing with.
They still have a Grubauer, either re-signing or replacing Philip Grubauer next year.
Yep.
So all of those conversations happen. And then, look, if you were to move one of those guys out right now, you replace that forward spot with Martin Kaut.
It's super easy to replace.
And you replace him on the ELC. And then next year, you lose somebody in the expansion draft. You don't love that, but that's, again,
everyone has to lose someone.
It's cap space. And then, okay, if they lose a forward, Shane Bowers goes in there. If they lose a defenseman, Connor Timmins goes in there. If they lose a goaltender, Adam Werner goes in there. Do you see where I'm saying? They're set up at all 3 levels of the organization to replace whatever they lose in the expansion draft with an ELC. Or in Timmins' case, it'll be his second contract, but like
on ELC money.
He's not. The reason why we're talking about Tyson Jost getting $2 million is because he has 200 games played. And there are guys who have been getting 1.5, 1.8. They've got 70 games played.
I think Cade puts it in here. Jordan Greenway's contract is a super good comparable for Jost, who got $2.1 million over 2 years. So I think that's right in the range that we're expecting Jost to get if they do go for a 2-year type deal. But back to your original point, when you talk about ELCs, this is what you have to factor in. If you move Compher, you move out $3.5 million, but you have to replace that. Replacing that with Martin Kaut is less than $1 million coming onto the roster. So that's a net gain of a little bit more than $2.5 million in cap space for the Avs. Donskoy, it's about $3 million in cap space for the Avs. On the back end, it's a little bit tighter depending on who they take. If they take Graves, it's still about 2 million, maybe a little bit more than 2 million. So you're looking at maybe they take Francouz and then it's a bit of a different conversation. But
it's about $1 million at that point.
Yeah. But so you're saving that money, and then you're looking at saving additional money if you also move out a Comfer or something and get full value of dollar-wise in a trade. You add those together, all of a sudden you're talking about $5-6 million in space. Now you've made up for a significant portion of Cale Makar's next contract.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of math that has to be done to figure out those numbers.
And like you're not eager to give up a Comfer or a Donskoy because those guys can help you. And when you're talking about replacing a guy, with a Martin Kaut, you're with a Connor, like they're an NHL unknown.
Yep.
We have glimpses, we have belief, you've got projections, but they're an unknown. Bowen Byram's an unknown. Those guys aren't proven in any way. They're proven in so much as they've proven they're ready for the challenge of the NHL.
They have nothing else to prove anywhere else.
In the NHL, with Donskoy, with Comfer, you walk in confident that in an 82-game season, you're getting 30-plus points out of each of those guys.
The thing
you're confident in that.
You are, but this is what contenders do. It's what they have to do. It's what Tampa has been doing for years to keep.
What Tampa's really going to have to do right now,
harder than ever.
Yeah,
because and that's the thing. The thing with Tampa is it took them until now in their window to finally win the cup, and the only reason their window lasted this long is because they were so good at finding players on the cheap that they could play, getting decent deals for guys. Stamkos coming back on a relatively cheap contract compared to what he could have made. This is the future of the Avs in free agency, in the trade market. It's about getting value on the roster. It's not about going out and getting the best player available. So,
yeah, I mean, you have to be cost efficient.
Yep.
There's nothing more cost efficient in the NHL than ELCs. It's why teams award them.
Yep.
It's why they're crazy pants over the top in valuing them. I would also just like to say, for all the shit that I took for saying this last year, it's also why that big commitment to JT Compher felt unnecessary.
Yeah, certainly.
It's fine. Like, it's not killing them in any way, but every decision has a consequence.
It's one of those things. You make that commitment to Compher, and then you also go out and make that commitment to Donskoy, and all of a sudden you have over $7 million tied up on your third line for the next 4 years.
Maybe even more concerning, what we talked about last year. You don't pay for faceoffs, $1.8 million for Pierre-Edouard Bellemare.
Yep.
You could save $1 million right off the top by replacing him with Shane Bowers.
Yep.
Are you going to get 15 points in an 82-game season? If Shane Bowers can't give you 15 points, then
he's a bust, basically.
Yeah. Flat out. If he can't give you that, if he can't give you the smart defense, if he can't give you some decent penalty killing and win a couple of faceoffs, like, he's going to get crushed in the faceoff circle. Every rookie does.
Yep.
But
the Avs aren't a team that the Avs have plenty of experience knowing how to play without winning faceoffs. To be fair,
it's at that point, and Bellemare is the third guy that I would say you have to consider, if you could move him.
Yeah, I would
for a 5th round pick or something. I mean, the 1.8 million would even just the 1 million, because you'd replace him with an ELC. Even just that $1 million would give them breathing room right now, I think, where they would be fine.
Even if you're not moving out a forward, for me, you have to seriously consider making Bellemare the 13th forward, in my opinion.
You might even consider burying it.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go that far.
Depending on what it looks like, man. Like, if they make no other moves, I'm not sure how they can. I don't think they can ice a 23-man roster.
That's true. You can get the $925K.
It's 1.1, I think.
Is it up to 1.1 now?
I know it's over $1 million. It may not be at 1.1, but I know it's over $1 million now.
Well, you free up that cap space is the point I'm making.
Yeah.
So that's true. If they don't move anyone out, they probably have to seriously consider burying some money. So all the more reason to look for the Avs to try and move something out, probably. But will Newhook replace Kadri at some point? Not this year, but eventually.
Well, and Newhook is one of the interesting guys because that's a guy that you're talking about on an ELC probably next year.
Yep.
Next fall, which is where if you were to trade Confer now and let's just say lose Donskoy in the expansion draft,
it's super easy to drop Newhook in as your 3C in that first year. Yeah.
Maybe even on a left wing if Brandon Saad leaves.
Yeah, whatever you want to do. Yeah.
Like, that's, I would say postseason, look for him more realistically for the Eagles.
Yeah.
Than the Avalanche.
Yeah, I think that's probably accurate.
An ATO and for him to go play for the Eagles in the AHL postseason would actually be, one, it would be a hell of a lot of fun. But two, I think that makes more sense than him dropping in and playing any kind of a significant role. And
yep. Drew, of those guys, I have Kaut priority 1, O'Connor 2 as more of a 13th forward type, and then Bowers playing with the Eagles and then being a call-up.
Yeah. And with Bowers, I think we're probably just going to have to wait a little bit.
Yeah, I'll reiterate what I said on the other show. He's not going to be an NHL regular this year, but I would be disappointed if he doesn't at least get some games based on injuries and et cetera.
No, the Avs window is for as long as they have Nathan McKinnon.
Yep, pretty much. The next 3 years look excellent, and you reassess when you sign McKinnon to that next contract, but the window doesn't just disappear.
Them kind of pushing a lot of chips for this next season changes some of the long-term math, but it's really just like re-sign Saad. Okay. He's going to get a 5-year deal. Toews is going to get a 4 or 5-year deal. Like those guys then become part of like your secondary core.
Yeah.
They're not like your
they're not the accessory guys either though. Yeah.
And this is, with Newhook around, this is why we haven't spent any time talking about bringing Kadri back after that contract is over.
That's a conversation that when you get there, if he wants to be a cheap 3C, maybe you have the conversation.
Yeah. If he even if, not know it, the uncertainty of when does the cap go up again?
Right.
And when do teams get that relief, or do they just completely adjust and everybody understands for the next 3 years, the cap is at 81.5 and we're going to continue to operate that way until it actually goes up.
Because then you're going to see the way teams operate in the offseason is going to be very different. If they know how a flat cap is coming, it's not going to be insanity like it has been this offseason, but there's not going to be that crazy aggression. You're not going to see a ton of crazy contracts. But if the end of next season, the Seattle expansion money rolls in, the NHL gets back on top of things, and they're saying,
new TV deal and expansion are the two big reasons for hope that the cap is going to start to move again.
Yep.
Especially next fall, and just not knowing where we are,
right?
Pandemic wise. But next fall, you would have to hope we're at least back to an 82 game schedule.
Based on everything we're hearing, the schedule should be back to normal for the 21-22 season.
Right. And so we can at least go back to 82 games. What that looks like in terms of our fans in the stands, 100% capacity. Do we just go back to normal? I have no idea. I have a really hard time, given the fact that there's not a vaccine, given the fact that there are COVID spikes all over the place again, all over the world again.
There are countries that are shutting down again.
Right. Like we're kind of going through, like we all talked about, the second wave in the fall. Guess what? It's here.
Yep.
And the impact that's going to have, does that delay the start of the next season even further? Do they wait until February 1st? Because I know they said January 1st, but part of that is because they wanted to wait to get fans in the stands, even at 10%, even at 20% capacity. You know, getting some fans in there. The NHL, the AHL, those leagues are desperate. They have to have gate receipts.
The AHL can't survive without it, period.
I'm legitimately concerned about the survival of the AHL.
Yep.
Just when that league finally is hitting its stride.
Feet under it, yep.
As a true development league, and every single team has its own development team and their own farm system, and we're not splitting them up, and they're not all buried in Massachusetts or on the East Coast. They're all over the place. It's its own functioning league. This is the one thing that could undercut it, and it's a serious concern. The AHL is not going to survive without gates.
Yep.
And and they won't start before the NHL. They can't.
Yeah.
They just can't. So I just don't know. I don't know what it looks like, but you're hoping that next fall we at least get back to the 82 games.
Yep.
And then, to circle this back to what we were talking about with the cap and how it's going to move, the expansion money will be in. The TV deal is the next year. You're hoping that money all impacts the 2021-2022 season, and that you go from there. That's when all the money. You're hoping that you get back to 100% attendance. You're hoping that TV money and Seattle money all combine to be like, woohoo! We're not bleeding money anymore.
Right.
It's okay, great. Maybe it stays at 81.5 for another year, but it gets ready to move after that. But all of that is going to have an impact on how Colorado can sign contracts. Because right now, this is an outrageously team-friendly situation where teams might be able to. Gabe Landeskog might have to take a $6.5 million deal, when a year ago we were talking about him making over $8. Realistically, over $8. A year ago when Tyson Barrie was traded, we talked about that guy signing an $8 million deal in free agency. He signed for 3.9.
Less than 4. And I had this conversation too. A lot of people were talking about how Barrie had a down year. And while that's true, he still produced a decent amount of offense. It's not like this guy was a black hole.
It was just shy of 40 points, which yes, that's down from 59.
Right.
Correct. But you still look at how many defensemen are producing 39 points. You know who didn't produce 39 points last year? Devon Toews didn't.
He produced 28, I believe. So
yeah. You know who didn't produce that many points, the 39 points last year?
Basically everyone on the Avs.
Pretty sure Nate Schmidt didn't either.
I think he had 38. So.
Nate Schmidt had 31 points
31,
last year.
Okay. The year before was 38 then?
The year before was 30. The year before that was 36.
Oh, okay. I was wrong.
So, we're talking, a guy that can produce from the back end is still really valuable.
That's his down year, is 39 points.
Right.
So,
and that guy got $3.9 million.
Yep.
He got late career Mike Green money.
Yep.
So this could be a thing where Colorado signs Devon Toews and Brandon Saad and Gabe Landeskog, and they give Cale Makar $8 million. And then in year 4 of all those contracts, the cap goes up by $5 million.
And all of a sudden
the Avs are sitting on a roster full of Nathan McKinnon contracts.
Yep. You go out and get another monster to add to that. Yeah. Things just get stupid. All right. I think we're about at the end of the show.
Yeah, I feel good for today.
Yeah.
Any last second questions?
Yeah. If anyone has anything left to fire off, we appreciate all y'all hanging out with us live. We know there's been a lot of you lately, so
yeah,
much appreciated.
And it's a Tuesday in the off season.
Yeah, exactly.
I can tell you when this is over, I'm gonna go write the article I tried to write yesterday before everything went sideways, where it's okay, well, what's left for the Avs to do in the off season? And it's nothing.
Kind of done. Kind of done.
This is kind of it. So,
all right. Well,
yeah. Oh man.
Yeah, no, Grub Cash is solely dependent on what he does this year. If he pulls up a
Yeah.
930 save percentage, he's going to be making bank. If he throws up league average, he's not going to be getting that much of a raise. It just
true. Luke, I'm hoping to be in Winnipeg in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Kind of just depends on government and how much flights cost, and if my flight will actually be allowed to cross the border.
Where do you rank the Avs decor overall in the league, AJ? Top 5? It's certainly top 10.
The thing is that they're still, until we see the big leap from Makar, they're still lacking the really, really, really high-end guy.
Sure. Makar certainly isn't far, but yeah.
Right. And they definitely are missing like the really, really high-end pairing that they just put out there and match up against everybody. Toews and Makar closes the gap quite a bit if they wanted to make that the pairing. Just if they wanted to do that.
Yep.
I would say, I mean, it's just because, and I would also say that if they put Byram in ahead of, if Eric Johnson is hurt and Byram is in there, if Johnson's healthy and they put Byram in there and Cole sits, like that's probably from a talent perspective
the highest end you can get. Yeah,
exactly. That's probably their like most talented version of their defense is one of Cole or Graves sitting as the 7th guy while Byram plays and Johnson plays. Assuming that that's the lineup here that we're kind of talking about. I mean, are there any defenses that really, because like everybody thinks about great defenses and they think about Nashville,
which isn't as good as it used to be.
Nashville is Yossi, Ellis, and Ekholm, and then after that, it's all third pairing guys.
Yep.
You know, Minnesota has a really good defense, but Spurgeon, Suter, Dumba, Brodin, like that's a great top 4.
Tampa, you have to throw it out there.
Tampa, well, we don't really know what their defense looks like. They lose
Kirk gone, yeah.
Both Bogosian and Shattenkirk have already left.
You still have the top end and Hedman. You still have Sergachev.
Yeah, I mean, between Hedman, McDonough, Sergachev, and Chernak, they're rock solid. They have the top end, but their depth, I think, is a lot iffier.
Yeah.
Like you look at St. Louis loses Pietrangelo but gets Krug. You know, Krug, Falk, Parayko, Dunn. Like
I low-key hate that defense besides Parayko.
I think it's like solid, but all of a sudden between Dunn, Krug, and Falk, you have a lot of offensive guys. It's just not what you think of in terms of a St. Louis.
Especially
defense. Not
St. Louis, yeah.
You know, Washington has always had a pretty good defense. You know, with Orlov and Carlson and now Dylan and Jensen.
Yeah, that's true. They did
Van Riemsdyk. They also signed Justin Schultz. They have Nick Jensen's been a really underrated guy. Kempney has always been kind of a solid dude. Like that's a rock solid defense. Washington might be my number 1.
JR says, do you think cap-rich teams would take a Cole trade? We talked about that earlier in the show. The short answer is no. Where would you start Newhook? 3C or 2 left wing? I'd start him at 3C because I want the Avs to re-sign Saad.
Yeah, it kind of just depends on the conversations that they have or the players they re-sign and you know all that.
Would the Rantanen contract had shorter term if they signed him this offseason? Maybe. I'm pretty sure it'd be cheaper.
I mean, what does that even? What would his contract last year have been then?
Right.
Would he have signed a 1-year deal at that point?
It's kind of a moot point.
Yeah. I guess I don't. Maybe I'm missing the premise of the question because it wasn't like Rantanen's contract was expiring and now the new one is starting. There was no contract. There
was no realistic way that Rantanen was up for a contract this year. Even if they bridged him, it would have been a 2-year deal. So
yeah, a 2 or a 3-year deal.
Yeah,
sure. There was. Yeah. I'm not sure. Man, this Colorado defense, it's got to be top 5 at least.
Yep. That's where I'm at with it. It's hard to nail down specifics just because of what do you want out of your defense. But
I like Philly too with Provorov and Sanheim and Braun and I guess
imagine if that D could get something out of Gostisbehere again.
Yeah. They signed Gustafsson and Haig is really blah.
I don't mind Haig. He's nothing special, but anyway, I have no idea if O'Reilly's gonna become the Blues captain.
I think it's the obvious next choice, which is
maybe not great for them.
But whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, I guess that's going to wrap it up for today. On a personal note, shout out to my wife. She got her PhD today.
Yes, we are very celebrating
the smartest person that I know.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
dude, a PhD in microbiology is no joke.
You got to be a really smart person to be able to do that.
Like smart is just where it starts. You also have to be dedicated and you have to work your ass off for that.
Yeah. The amount of research and stuff she's done is crazy.
Yeah. So that's awesome for her and for you guys to celebrate that. I'm very excited for y'all.
Hell yeah. I'm excited for you to finally get to Winnipeg as well, but get there when you get there. We are out of here for the day. Thank you everyone watching, listening, consuming the podcast. There's many of you here on YouTube with us now. If you're not, please come join us, subscribe to the channel, like the videos. It helps us a ton there. We're making a push into the YouTube scene. I want a play button for DNVR at some point. So we got a long way to go, but we'll get there. Yeah, the dissertation was over 100 pages. So, and she said that was fairly short, but whatever. Our final sponsor of the day is Chevalier Mortgage. You can call Virginia directly at 303-257-6578 or visit DNVRmortgage.com. Mike and Virginia Chevalier are not only diehard Broncos fans and proud CSU alums, but they have supported DNVR for a long time as members as well. They're a husband and wife team with over 15 years of financial services experience. Again, you can visit them at DNVRmortgage.com, and when you go there, you can enter to win a free DNVR shirt or hat of your choice. So why not stop on by and enter to win? And you can get set up with a free consultation to discuss your options as well. Since your home is likely one of your largest assets and your mortgage your largest debt, they believe it is vital to consider your full financial picture when purchasing a home. This includes considering your short-term and long-term planning goals, your investments, and your tax situation. Mike and Virginia will work tirelessly to find the best loan for your situation when you visit them. Again, free consultation, free shirt or hat, DNVRmortgage.com. Stop by and give them a jingle. That's it for today. We will be back tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. You can find us here 5 days a week. We appreciate y'all, and I'm not sure what we have planned for the rest of the week. Some kind of organizational prospect rank at some point, but we'll see, and we will talk to you tomorrow.